Steven Wilson is perhaps prog rock's greatest musical ally, and yet remains an extremely underrated talent that is often overlooked by many of his peers in his field. So, does his newest solo album break the mold, and will this set him free into the annals of legendary status? Hi people, and hello my Chili Con Carnes crew, welcome to this 5-minute review on Steven Wilson's newest solo album, The Harmony Codex. To those who are unfamiliar with the works of Steven Wilson, I will give you a quick rundown. Steven Wilson formed the prog rock group Porcupine Tree in the late 80s and went on to find success with his group throughout the 90s and 2000s, with albums such as In Absentia, Fear of Blank Planet, Light Bulb Sun, and The Sky Moves Sideways, the last of which is often compared to Pink Floyd's album Wish You Were Here for its style, 2 long songs on the album, both of which at the beginning and at the end of the record, and acoustic midsection. He has also worked with Opeth, helping them on some of their most successful albums, such as Blackwater Park, Deliverance, and Damnation. In this junction of meetings with the then black metal musicians, each of the members from these bands influenced each other's sound moving forward, with Porcupine Tree adapting a heavier guitar sound, of course with their upcoming records, and Opeth adapting a quieter, more prog rock approach, more akin to Yes for future releases. Speaking of Yes, Steven Wilson even helped on production for the re-release of the early Yes albums. On top of this, he has also been a part of other bands such as Blackfield, Storm Corrosion, and No Man, and now with Harmony Codex being released, this his 7th solo studio album. It was only last year that Porcupine Tree released their most recent and possibly last album, so to see Steven Wilson jumping back into his solo career so quickly is both amazing and a bit of a somber one. A majority of his solo works have been similar in vein to his main band, and of course following that prog rock repertoire he has made, and many of his solo albums are very enjoyable, such as On the Raven That Refused to Sing, 4.5, and Hand Couldn't Erase. But Steven Wilson is not a musician that is restricted to one area of music that is writing the same thing. He is a musician that evolves his sound over time, and on his last solo album The Future Bites, we found his sound moving towards an electronic rock fused record. To me, it was a terrible album, and I did not like it, so any steps made away from that sounds like progress to me. This album contains all the tropes that you would expect from a prog rock group, with songs that are in excess of 10 minutes long, and of course long instrumental sections with several changes throughout each tune. With the first single from the album, Economies of Scale, I found myself apprehensive of the direction the album would take, with its electronic and synth drum patterns mixed into a minimalistic song that was familiar with his previous effort, but I didn't abhor this one. The vocals are beautiful and perfectly fit into the song like a jigsaw puzzle, with the addition of lone pianos and guitars throughout. The next single was Impossible Tightrope, a 10-minute banger of a tune that follows suit from the previous song and is one epic piece. I love this song, and it's a poignant one that lives up to its title, just carefully traversing between old school prog rock with King Crimson influences and new age spiritual sounding undertones with careful attention to the guitar duties. The first half of this album is mesmerizing and enthralling as the tune Rock Bottom comes around, with guest vocalist Nanette Tayeb, who I think I mispronounced, joining the foray for an awesome collaboration effort. But it is by the second half of the album and the arrival of the ominously drab song that is the Beautiful Scarecrow that the album starts to show cracks. You see, up until this point of the record, I have been enjoying the music so far, but I haven't fallen in love with it. Now, I've mentioned before that earlier songs incorporate minimalistic tunes in their songs. However, by the time we get to the title track, we are left with a 10-minute effort that is very minimalistic in approach. The lyrics within paint a grey picture of London, and the music helps accompany this, but it's such a boring song. This is where artistic visions get in the way of creating something that has a semblance of enjoyment. The same can be said about Time Is Running Out, and that sets a bleak picture of nihilism while time is fleeing. Maybe it serves as a warning to seize the day, but I don't think that was the intention of this song. The same attitudes are found on the following track, Actual Brutal Facts, and I guess it's a realization for not only the listener, but to Steven too. At this point, it feels somewhat introspective while pointing the finger to everyone who will hear this message. Earlier asked if this album would break Steven Wilson into the household name status, and if he wasn't already then, this album won't really change the fact. Longtime fans of Steven have come to expect evolution of his sound over time, and this album feels like another step in his career. I think The Future Bites was a misstep along his path, but was a sound that he wanted to continue with, and this album, while dialing back his previous efforts, still toes between a line of his newer records and his older records. I think this can be best heard on the closing track Staircase, which harkens back to his Raven days with a wicked bass line and drumming pattern, but then within the same breath of the song brings in that new era with an elusive keyboard section and spoken word part. This is not his best works, but maybe a few more playthroughs might change my mind on this record. Still, this album needs a score. Overall, I'll give this album a score of 6.5 million chilies on the spicy scale, with my favourite tracks being Inclination, Impossible Tightrope, and Staircase. This recent effort feels like he's trying to appease both newcomers and old fans at the same time, but it's like an anchor that restricts him in places. Good electronic rock is hard to do, let alone with a minimalistic approach and a unique artistic vision. And of course, while I'll admit that this is not one of my favourite efforts of his, I do think that it has, of course, merit of its own and is still a strong record, even if it's not to my liking. But have a listen for yourself, and of course, if you have heard the record, I would love to hear your insight on this recent effort. Thank you for checking out this episode of 5 Minute Reviews. Make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to us and get notified for future videos. As always, people, you have a great day and stay spicy. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Live Listen Erased. And if you have enjoyed this episode, make sure you share it with all your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our Chili Con Carnage crew so you can get notified for all the future videos that we put out, as we put out videos every Friday. Also, we are on Discord, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter over at Live Listen Erased, so make sure to tune in over there. And don't forget to like this video so that our manager can stay very happy.